Hey, what's up? Look up quick. There's a sticker of a walrus on your ceiling, and he's wearing a tattoo, and I'm pretty sure that's the Tooth Fairy. Oh my gosh. Who knew that whole time? That's the Tooth Fairy. Just kidding. It's not actually a sticker. Don't worry about looking up. I'm just joking. You can look if you want. And if you looked, I made you look. Anyway, it's the news. Welcome in. How you doing? What's good? Stupid joke to begin with. My bad. Anyways, let's get into it. So, with today's news, what we're talking about in essence is trying to get down with focusing on the thought that in business, it's not actually like a game. In other games, everybody says the same rules. They play the same rules and they play the same game and everybody does the same thing in essence, realistically. Whereas in this game of business, it's all about just serving the customer. If you make them happy, if you make them smile, you can get paid. It's just about that simple. It doesn't matter really how it kind of goes otherwise. If you get there, you get the avenue there, you use AI, it doesn't necessarily matter. So you get there and you get the money. That's it, period. And then you do it a bunch of times and you find things that cause scalability, you get the money, period. That's it. So in essence, if you continue to find tools that are good and gnarly and invest in tools and are functioning to be able to cause a greater result, then hey, you have won this game of business that is not at all equal. So it's very peculiar. It is what it is. You just want to make people smile, and that's the whole game. That's the name of the game. That's the game of business in essence. So just continue to do that, and you can in essence get paid. It does not really. That's the purpose of the game of business, is to make people smile. And I'll say that again because the purpose is to cause happiness at the end of the day for folks at the end of the tunnel. So realistically, let's get that done. That's the whole purpose, is focusing on that. And that's philanthropic energy. It doesn't exactly have to do with money to get yourself more things or anybody to get more materials necessarily. It has to do with being rewarded for compensated for making people happy. In essence, that's kind of a unique and interesting, peculiar thing to focus on. And at the same time, it's not about playing like a sport where everybody has to play by the same rules, per se. Anyways, moving right along, we'll also focus on the concept that that items for sale in life should, in essence, follow like a single string, because there's like a string that's attached to the heart, and in essence, like the heart has things that it wants to sell. And if literally you were only going to live for whatever amount of time, and it was like whatever finite time, then you kind of have the ability to choose only a couple things, then there's an ability to choose based on what's on your heart. The heartstring thing means that's the priority. That's the first thing. And it doesn't matter necessarily about money per se. It's that you would want to sell that thing because that thing is closest to your heart. And it's if there was just a short amount of time, you would just choose that thing after scanning the whole world because that thing is closest to your heart. And that thing is something that you care about as well, necessarily. So it's not just about money and getting things and materials and reward at the back end, but it's following the heartstring, which is a linear item. And it also causes the ability for focus because it tries to weed out and narrow out everything else from the rest of the world. And there's millions of products in the world. So if you have to focus and figure out what to sell based upon that, then it helps to weed out the whole millions of products that are in the world to be able to find the things that align with the truest interest of a heart. And then it also kind of weeds out the ability to just walk along the line that has to do with the truth of your interest and your focus and your heart as a person, as people are, and such things, to also be happier while selling and doing business in essence, which is important because it does matter because you're spending your time doing it, so you may as well, right? That's one of the bigger purposes of the nature of spiritual finance and the nature of love and the nature of this podcast and such things is that in essence conceptual focus. And as well with this focus, or with this podcast, we're trying to focus on frequencies, vibes, frequencies, and recorded flows that are consistent frequencies, and hoping to actually tap into the river of that, because that's the purpose of the podcast, is to open up the river, it's to open up the light, it's to open up the focus and the aperture into that direction of all those frequencies in essence that we're speaking about, that also speak to the ability for business, but it's just a significant river of focused energies that have to do with business, and that's what spiritual finance is. And we're really just trying to tap into that river and just trying to continue to get inspired and such, and hopefully it widens and is a widening mechanism which happens to also widen and include the world as we all play as kids, and in global games for change, to be able to make philanthropy and philanthropy games. Alright. So in essence, there's also so many items there's so many like items to sell in terms of creating a greater business and such, and there's not like a million seconds in a day. You can't add more time in the day. So in essence, sometimes it's kind of necessary to be able to package things together, be able to put them into a form, to be able to make an equation to like equal taking one step that has the ability, that has an energy that equals, a lot of energy to take that one step, and then but having to find the equation to make that energy to be able to take that one step is therefore condensed. So in this similar or a shorter amount of time, you can take one step as opposed to taking many little steps, which takes a lot more time. There's like an energy equation that can make enough energy to kick the boot, so the boot takes just one step, and it takes like a whole lot less time in essence. And that's like making energy equations. That's what spiritual finance is all about, is making energy equations to be able to shorten the time and widen the results, in essence. Oh, yeah. And in essence, also, in terms of spiritual finance, focusing on different elements of light. In essence, every thought is like a bit of light. In essence, there's light with every thought and attention that you focus on. And if you are able to track your attention, in essence, then it's ideal and possible to be able to just try to go ahead and grab every thought, like their individual thoughts, and like grab it like it's attention. And then so be able to go scan through your own thoughts and be able to grab that attention like it's attention. And like it's light. And you actually grab the light. So you grab the light when you have these thoughts, when you have interesting thoughts that are unique and have value and have the ability to contribute to your business. You grab those thoughts like they're light, like they're a strain of light, like they're a strain of lightning. And you grab them and you hold on to it, but then you have to strain them out like orange juice. And you don't let them go until they're strained out. You have to make sure to not let them go, because otherwise they'll fly away. And if you don't grab them and hold on to them and strain them out like orange juice, then they'll actually escape. They will always actually escape if you don't focus on them, because that's the nature of the nature. That's the nature of nature, is they always escape. If you don't pay attention to the thoughts of the thoughts of the highest light, they will escape. They'll run away, and you won't get a chance to encapsulate them, put them in and strain out the light, so then they add to your equation of positive assets and mental assets for your attention. So you want to weed out the thoughts, that have the most light, to be able to be able to add the light to your jars, to be able to widen the assets in your portfolio for as long as possible as time goes on, and also be able to revisit those mental assets and refocus on them by straining out the light and those good positive asset thoughts. Yeah. And also we're trying to acknowledge that investing in personal brands are like the main ways to make money in life, in terms of just being like an individual, in essence. So you go to personal brand, and then you got investing. And so we're just trying to also consult, like, Dinky Tehc will do some consulting. I'm also open to free, conversations about that people want to have for trying to focus on those two things. It's not exactly consulting or free conversations. It's kind of like both and something in between, but also something to highlight is something that everyone needs. It's necessary to be able to focus on that, because the first part of this podcast was trying to highlight the ways in which all those things are possible to be able to highlight just by focusing on the things that are possible to sell, to be able to make a linear line for someone to walk in, to be able to make a personal brand, to be able to then sell things that are very interesting, and be able to acknowledge those things to keep someone happy while trying to make a business and such things. And it's outside of the realm of money, but then again, then you can reinvest into the process, so the process grows and the heart grows, and everybody can play across the world in games as kids. Everybody's playing games to make change and make the world a better place, because that's the name of the game of a personal brand at the core. I'll come back to that one in 1 second. You have to give focus. You can only give focus. You cannot lend focus. When you say, I will lend you my ear, it does not make sense. You will only give an ear, because you cannot get focus back. You cannot get time back. It all adds up to a greater asset equation. So coming back to personal brand and investing, focusing on investing is cool and such, but personal branding is very important, and it's all about habits. So the habits that lead into that is along the lines of the last thing that I just said in terms of focus. It's necessary to aggregate the focus and concentration and focus, so the ability to gain the most light and capture the most light in the most bottles is possible, to be able to grow the biggest asset brain to begin with, to be able to grow the biggest business after all, to be able to connect with the biggest tools, and be able to grow to be able to grow the biggest energies. All right, that's about all for now. Thanks again, Dinky Tehc. Sorry that they're singing in songs.